everyone, it's Josh here, triathlon coach and physiotherapist and one of the founders here at SE Coaching and Training. If you're passionate about swimming, running, triathlon and open water performance and want to train smarter, stay injury free and truly enjoy your sport, you're in the right place. In this video, I'm going to break down what triathlon is all about, the swimming, the biking, the running, and how to get started in a way that's simple, realistic and injury free. Whether your goal is your first sprint triathlon or you're just learning how to train smarter, let's get you started in the right way. So let's jump in. With the new year fast approaching, I'm assuming you're getting yourself into triathlon or swim, bike or run for the upcoming year. And you've stumbled across our video or you're one of our regular athletes looking to get yourself fit and good, ready for the upcoming season. So here we go into a video about everything you actually need to know when you're first stepping out into triathlon or swim or bike or run. So let's complicate it from the outset. There's 3 sports, there's a lot of gear, there's loads of different training advice and it all seems to go against each other. But the truth is starting triathlon is far simpler than most people make it out to be. In this video I'm going to walk you through what you actually need to know when you're starting out, the essentials, some priority sessions to go and get through, the kit that you actually need to get started, as well as some suggestions for stuff to purchase down the line, shopping options to come into that, kind of where to go. If you're thinking about your first triathlon, you might have already signed up. This will save you some time, money and a lot of stress as you get into the sport itself. So what is it? At its core, it is 3 disciplines. It's swimming, biking and running, in that order. You may see some other events that do it in a different order, but for most of us, especially at an amateur level, it's going to be in that order. In terms of distances, so you've got sprint distance or super sprint, which are the 2 shortest, and these are generally best for most beginners athletes. And you can often find quite a lot of local events run by local clubs, local youth organisations that are going to get you into that sport in a nice, friendly, controlled manner. You can either have pool or open water in both of that. Moving up, you've then got Olympic distance or standard distance. It's a little bit further. It's double the length of a sprint triathlon on the whole. So this is kind of looking more for people that are either coming in from a high end in one of the other disciplines or people that have tried sprint and ready to step it up. Then we've got middle and long distance. Again, the infamous Ironman events. These are kind of long distance events and definitely not where you want to have your first race. I'd advise, even if you have booked one of these events as your first race, that actually over the upcoming season we look at booking in some of the smaller sessions, some of the sprint sessions or some of the Olympic distance events, so you get used to triathlon as a whole and what that actually looks like. You don't need to be all good at all three of them. You just need to be safe, consistent with your training and willing to learn, willing to adapt and willing to push yourself a little bit to be good at all of these. So when it comes to training, really it's about consistency. The best athletes are athletes that can be consistent with their training across the entire year, able to get up, get a session done, even if they're not feeling great. And there's things we can do to kind of manage that. It might be that actually they're not kind of completing the session completely, but they're going in and they're getting a session done in some shape or form. Really, we're looking at kind of 6 sessions a week. That's normally enough for an athlete, especially starting out, and these could be any kind of time frame that we think is appropriate. Ideally we'd like to work up to 8, but for a lot of amateur athletes just starting out, we're time pressured, and actually we don't need to push ourselves in that way to get the most out of the sport. It is normal to miss sessions, and every athlete will miss sessions. Sometimes actually the need for rest is more important than actually getting that session done. Or like I mentioned, it might be that you shorten a session down so you get half a session, or you get a tailored session so you drop it by 25% or so in terms of intensity. We can talk about that in one of our later videos in terms of working around and adjusting sessions to suit how you are at the moment. Avoid all or nothing weeks and avoid superhero days where you try and get as much training crammed into as possible. I know people that often have shift patterns will try and do this strategy where they'll use their rest day to get all their training done for the week and then do nothing for the other 6 days. It's always a bad idea, and it's just going to lead in either injury or burnout or a combination of the two. It's something we kind of want to avoid. We want to be consistent even if it's at a lower intensity for the entire duration of the year. Now, as a triathlete, or even as an athlete in swim, run or bike, bike, swim, you don't want to train as three separate athletes. We need to look at the discipline of triathlon as a whole and balance the sessions across. The biggest mistake a lot of triathletes make is trying to train like a swimmer, like a cyclist, and like a runner, standalone athletes, and trying to complete all the sessions that an athlete in one of the standalone disciplines would try and complete. It's all about balance across the week, not maximising one sport, but being decent at all three. That's really where the magic happens. And as we've touched upon, fatigue management. We need to have rest days. We need to have easier sessions to enable us to have harder sessions. Athletes that constantly stack their fatigue up are just going to burn out, and that's going to send all your dreams crashing down into one big pile. So the more rest we can put in, the better. In terms of when we're actually looking at structuring our sessions, where we put our rest and where we put our easier sessions is generally where we're going to start. We're going to build then the rest of our week and the rest of our training around what that looks like and when we've got a chance to recover. And that might not look the same each week. Whether or not you work on a shift pattern, actually where your rest days might be variable depending on what other life stuff's happening at the moment and where your pulls are being pulled into. Most beginner triathletes get injured from not allowing themselves to rest, not allowing themselves to recover in between sessions. So that is absolutely essential for us to manage. So our central training sessions, we're looking at swimming twice a week. Whether or not you come from a swimming background or not, twice a week, shorter sessions is generally where we want to be working on. We want to do a combination of drills and a combination of actual fitness work so that we're getting the best of both worlds. We want to have a really good technique. So we're looking at picking certain drills to focus on for the course of the 2-week period or for a month period. Got really good at that and then moving on to a next technique. And kind of a really nice ways, swimming twice a week, 30 minutes. Do 10 minutes on focusing on drills, 20 minutes focusing on fitness sessions. For example, 10 minutes focusing on skull one, focusing then taking that into a bit of catch and pull up catch up work, or then moving on to paddles, and then doing a session, for example, 10 times 100 to finish off for the next 20 minutes. That would be a kind of nice 30 35 minute session for most athletes to be able to achieve across the week. Even better if you can attend a swim squad session or a triathlon swim squad, or even just get together with a few friends or one of those swims a week. You can help coach each other and enjoy the kind of pain, do a slightly longer session. Again, this is what I encourage all our athletes in our swim squad to do. Attend our swim session once a week where we do a lot more technique work. We do half an hour on technique in various areas in a systematic way. And I tell them we'll get in the pool for another 20-25 minutes, another day of the week, or longer if they can manage it, where again they take everything that we've spoken about, work for it, slow time, and get a second swim done. If you're coming at this from a strong swim background, your technique is good, and by that I'm saying you kind of swim front crawl at 1:45 pace or quicker, then you could potentially look at skipping that second swim session and just holding yourself and maintaining that speed at that kind of area. But for most of us, that's not the case. So actually getting a second swim session is good, just so we feel really confident in the pool. Moving on then to our bike. So bike is going to be the biggest discipline that we work on. It's the dominant area in triathlon, and actually this is where most wins are made. So we want to have 2 sessions a week in the early stages. So you get into 2 short sessions, you'll get comfortable on the bike, whether or not that's indoor, outdoor, at the gym. In the initial stages, it doesn't really matter. You're just getting confident on the bike and getting that fitness done. There's a lot of carryovers from bike fitness to run fitness that don't necessarily work the other way. So the bike session, getting 2 done as a minimum, and as we progress down the line, getting 3 done are really what's going to make a big difference. We want to have one bike that's going to be more of a long steady. So our zone 2 ride, so we're keeping our heart rate in kind of a lower zone, but more of a manageable zone. And one of a more moderate where we're doing some intensity work. We might move between zones. We might do a little bit of speed work in and around that. This can be something where you're doing hill reps, for example, or you're doing sprints, or you're on the turbo trainer, doing a set session on Zwift or on training peaks that gives you that structure and gives you that ability to work hard, then recover. Your aerobic fitness on the bike is key. Don't destroy yourself, so this kind of works back into our rest days. but this is where your engine's going to be made, especially in the front half of the year. As we move into our runs then, so if we can, we're going to get 2 runs in a week, but this is going to be where I make our first sacrifice. If need be, our second run session is going to be what we sacrifice to enable the rest of our training. Because we're getting so much of our fitness on the bike, actually a second run session a week where we're working up to our threshold level, but more likely working in and around a race pace, varying in between speeds, varying in between zones. Don't become a one pacer. So one pacers are people that they step out the door and they start running and they run the same pace forever and in eternity. Don't be one of those. So we want to have a run a week that we're kind of working in different paces. It doesn't necessarily need to be speed work, so we're not working our upper end, we're not working into zone 5 necessarily, unless you've got the time capacity and the training history to enable that. If you're starting out, what it might look like is actually we're working between 3 speeds. We're working between a walk or a fast walk, which is going to be our recovery. We're then working into kind of what would be more of our steady state, so our race pace, especially if we're talking longer distance stuff. This will be our steady state kind of pace, and then our lactate threshold pace, which will be the upper end. And this would be the pace that we could maximum hold out for about an hour, unless you're able to check it with a lactate monitor. This will be where our blood lactate starts to increase without us having any control over that. Most of us won't have blood lactate monitor on hand to kind of work into a pace that you feel you're able to talk a few words. That's going to be the maximum pace that we're going to work into in terms of various devices that will guide you through kind of what that looks like. We don't want to do lots of speed work. This is going to be where our injury risk starts to go through the roof. The last thing we want is to get injured at this point from doing too much too soon. And actually, we can make a lot of our gains on the bike in terms of cardiovascular fitness. So if we're running again, one of the main areas we want to be working around is our technique. Do we feel comfortable when we're running? Do we feel relaxed? And there's lots of videos in around drills that you can potentially add in that a lot of people tend to avoid. But actually, to become an efficient runner, that's often where to go. Again, your local tri club probably does a track session, and it'd be likely worth using that as your one run a week, where it's structured. They work through some drills, you warm up, you work at an appropriate pace for the session, and then you kind of have a structured cool down. Also gets you involved with other people that might be sharing your race, sharing your goals, and get to become one of the community. Our final sessions of the week are going to be our strength training sessions, and we're looking at doing 1 to 2 strength sessions a week. We're not looking at becoming Arnold Schwarzenegger. So this isn't about being big. This is about being conditioned and being injury free. So a lot of athletes will stray, especially endurance athletes, will stray away from strength training and then wonder why they get injured down the line. But putting in some effort into single leg exercises, both ankles, calves, hips, thighs, core control and shoulder mobility in 1 to 2 short sessions a week will condition you. And again, we've got a video coming out shortly that will talk about different exercises you can do to maximize that. What realistically we're looking for is 1 to 2 half-an-hour sessions in the gym in a structured approach, looking at getting conditioned and working at any personal niggles that you might have identified or physio might have identified for you in the past to work on. This isn't about bodybuilding, it's about keeping the body functional. So moving on then, so we're going to talk about essential kit, what you need to buy first. So this is where people can often waste a lot of money and can be led astray quite easily. So we're going to prioritise what we actually need. So we're going to need some swimwear that we can get as basic as you need. You're not entering the Olympics at this point, so just get a decent swimsuit that you feel comfortable in. Get a set of goggles that fit you. Again, you don't need to spend through the nose for these, but getting a set of goggles that are going to work for you and feel comfortable day in, day out. You're going to need a bike that fits you. And you want a road bike or a gravel bike at this point. You don't need to get a TT bike, but having something that you're comfortable doing training on is essential. I would say start second-hand market. Second-hand bikes are an amazing place to start for most triathletes, unless they've already got one in the garage that just needs a little bit of repair. You can get a decent bargain for somebody that is a lot further along the line than you and has just upgraded and is getting rid of one of their spare bikes. So actually starting with the second-hand market, getting one that fits you. The fit of the bike is more important. It's easier to get a bike that fits you, and then if you don't like it, you can always spray it and get it repainted down the line, than it is to kind of get a bike based on how it looks, but actually you're just in pain on it. And the easier the bike feels to ride from day one, the more likely you are to ride it. So the more time you're going to spend on it. The places you are going to spend a bit more money is your helmet. Getting a decent road bike helmet that's going to protect you if you have a crash. Make sure there's a decent safety rating on it, rather than getting something from a cheap online store. Actually go into a bike store shop, look for one that you both like and that fits you and it's safe to wear if you come into an accident. Another place that we're going to spend a little bit of money are running shoes. Again, they need to be ones that suit you, not suit your friends. They need to be ones that are kind of appropriate to you. If you can, go into your local running store, get yourself fitted, have a look at options, talk about what's best for you. What you can potentially do is go online and buy a version down the line so you've got two pairs to rotate through, or a similar model to kind of work through. But initially, go into your running store, put some money back into our ecosystem, and we'll get a shoe that's actually right for you at this point. Things that we do want to buy down the line that we're not going to necessarily buy yet. Some swim toys. So things like paddles, things like a pool buoy, things like a kickboard, things like fins. Those are the 4 places I'd say we'd start with swim kit. Again, we've done various videos where we use these. Those are the 4 things I think for a lot of triathletes get you started into the world of actually doing drills and doing sessions in the pool. Longer term, we can think about other options. We might get a snorkel down the line. We might get different types of fins. We might get something, for example, like a tempo trainer, so we can adjust our pace. And especially for our athletes, we use tempo trainers a lot to manage their speed in the pool and to work through different speed zones. Other things that you're going to want down the line, depending on what event you've entered, a wetsuit. Again, a second-hand online market can be a good place to start for your first wetsuit. Or looking at a discount. And we offer a zone free discount to their wetsuits at the end of this video. So if that's something that interests you, go on their website, have a look at something that's going to fit you. Going to want cycling shoes and cleats. Again, there's lots of info about this, but ultimately you don't need this to get started. And for a lot of athletes, clipping into their bike can be quite daunting. So I wouldn't say this is one of your first bikes to get. And actually getting used to having cleats on can be a bit of a barrier for a lot of athletes. So consider it, but definitely not as one of your first purchases. Your GPS watch. So again, we're talking kind of a Sunto, Polar, Garmin, all these kind of brands that are able to track your swim sessions and upload it so you can keep an eye on where your training is. Also again gives you an idea of what your fatigue's like and make decisions accordingly. Again, for race day, you might want a tri-suit. Before this, I would assume that you bought relevant clothing for swimming, biking, and running. So you've got a cycle bib shorts or cycle shorts and a jersey. You've got appropriate run gear. Even though you can get stuff cheaper, it's worth getting dedicated cycling gear, worth getting dedicated running gear. And if you want to for your race, getting a tri-suit again that fits, that feels comfortable, that's then going to enable you to cycle on the bike in something that is wet, because the tri-suit will get rid of most of that moisture in the chamois before you start cycling, but also then able to run in and save those precious seconds when it comes to transitioning between all of these. They don't make you fast, that's what the trainer's there to do, but they can make you comfortable doing the event. When you're first starting out, things to ignore. You don't need to be aero with everything. Aero often costs money, and that's something for later down the line. If you still enjoy the sport next year, yeah, look at being aero, not this year. Don't need to have carbon everything. Again, same thing. You might find some carbon products actually are slower than their titanium or aluminium counterparts. Carbon shoes, again, for a beginner, don't need them. Get something that you feel comfortable in and you're actually going to use. You don't need complicated nutrition products. You do need to think about nutrition, but you don't need to go and spend through the nose for complicated nutrition products. Avoid stuff that pops up on social media. You'll see loads of influencers come out with different products that they think are going to revolutionise your sport, and most of the time you just don't need them. Other things to consider down the line, whether or not you get an indoor trainer for your bike. So an indoor trainer for your bike will allow you to train through the winter months. And you can get what we call a dumb trainer or a smart trainer or anything in between. Again, second-hand market's going to be a really good place to start for these. Don't be afraid to get an older turbo trainer that will do the job for you for a year, and then decide next year if you want to upgrade. Actually see if you like the sport before you want to spend loads of money. Triathlon is expensive enough as it is without spending more than you need to. So some common beginner mistakes. Doing every session hard. Not every session is going to be done at the same intensity. Not every session is there to be hard. Some sessions are there to recover. Some sessions are more technique focused. Copying elite training plans. You are not an elite athlete. You're not paid to be an athlete. Elite athletes will train 20 to 35 hours per week. That is their full-time job. You have other things in life going on that pull you in different directions. If you could train for 30 hours a week, you probably wouldn't be watching this video. So don't copy their training plans. Have a training plan that suits you, whether or not you've written it, or whether or not you've reached out to a coach, whether or not you're having a one-to-one coach, whether or not you've just got your personalized training plan to work through. Don't overbuy gear. Start with some basic gear, get used to it, then buy some more, then buy a little bit more. So you're not buying everything in one go, you're buying equipment when it has a need. When you get to that point in your training that you actually need to have something different. Don't ignore your recovery. If that means reining back in on the session so you're having an easier session instead of a harder session, and that means enabling an extra rest day, the recovery is where the magic's really going to happen and you're actually going to progress and be stronger. Also, don't compare yourself to others. Everybody comes at the sport from a different angle. Some people have longer training histories, some people have shorter training histories. Some people just have a lifestyle that enables them to train for this easier. There's also a genetic approach. So don't compare yourself to others. Compare yourself to you. Compare yourself to where you were 6 weeks ago, 6 months ago, and go from there. So I think as you've probably worked out over the course of this, it's a rewarding journey, but it takes a lot of patience and it takes consistency. People who stick around aren't the ones who train the hardest each month. They're the ones who are just consistent across the whole month. Start simple and build gradually. Learn as you go, ask questions, be inquisitive. Your first triathlon isn't just a destination though, it's the start. Therefore, give the video a like and subscribe for more triathlon tips. We also offer personalised coaching plans, one-to-one swim and open water coaching, tailored training programs, and experts physiotherapy support, all designed to help you reach your goals while keeping your body strong and healthy. And don't forget, you can save on your gear by using our 20% zone-free discount code. More details are in our description. I'm Josh from SC Coaching and Training. See you in the next one.